Hi everyone, this is Miss Susan from the Free Library of Northampton Township. I'm here today for the first week of Math Fun, where we just play games and solve puzzles using our math skills. This week we're going to talk about Tangrams. Tangram is a traditional Chinese puzzle, which is a square divided into 7 smaller shapes with one parallelogram, 1 square, and 5 triangles. We arrange these shapes to make designs, or we can use them to solve mathematical puzzles. And why do we do this? It helps us work with our problem solving and to develop more visual spatial skills. So going to our website, we're going to print out this week's information about our Math Fun for Tangrams. The first page is going to explain some of the activities. The next page is going to be the Tangram shapes. We're going to print this out and cut them out, and you are left with our 7 shapes. And you can see that we have 5 different size triangles. We do have a square, and we have a parallelogram. What is a parallelogram? It is a quadrilateral that has 4 sides, and parallelograms have opposite sides being parallel, or meaning that the sides will never intersect, but they do not make right angles at the vertices. Vertices being the points in which the lines meet. So the difference between a square and a parallelogram. Square is a parallelogram because its opposite sides are parallel to each other, but a square has right angles or 90-degree angles at its vertices, where a parallelogram does not. It has an angle that is different than 90 degrees. So we're going to have a square, a parallelogram, and 5 triangles to work with. Our first activity is going to create larger shapes using smaller shapes. And the first one would be Tangram duos, meaning that we're going to use 2 shapes to create a 3rd shape. Our first question is, can you create a triangle using 2 pieces or 2 shapes that we have? All right, so let's try using 2 smaller triangles to create a larger triangle. The second question is, can you create a square using 2 shapes? If we use those same triangles, we can now create a square. This is not the only answer. I bet you can come up with other ones. So play around with, see how many different squares you can come up with using 2 shapes. One other question is a trapezoid. Does anybody know what a trapezoid is? It looks like, one example of a trapezoid would look like this. Trapezoid has 1 pair of opposite sides being parallel, like the top and bottom here. They will continue and not intersect, and then 2 other opposite sides of the 4 sides not being parallel. So this would be an example of a trapezoid. Trapezoids have 4 sides, making them a quadrilateral. So you can continue to play around with our shapes using 2 duos or 2 shapes, Tangram triplets using 3 shapes to make a 4th shape, and the last one would be Tangram quads. Let's try to make shapes out of 4 pieces. The next activity would be Tangram shape fractions. And instead of looking at smaller shapes to make larger shapes, we're going to look at a large shape and visualize how many smaller shapes are inside. So for the first one, imagine a hexagon to be our large shape, and we're asked how many triangles are a piece or a fraction of that larger shape. So I drew some lines on my hexagon, which has 6 sides. And now I can see that there are 6 triangles inside of a hexagon. So a triangle is going to be 1/6 or 1/6 of that hexagon. So when you continue on, you're going to be looking at this larger shape, and you're going to try to visualize how many of these smaller shapes are inside. The triangle is 1 out of those 6, or 1/6. All right. And the last activity, and it's the one that's probably the most fun, and if you've played with Tangrams before, it's using those shapes to create some fun designs. How do we make shapes and into visualize something larger. These are some of the examples that I saw on the internet. There's really so many. I do like the ones that look like animals, but you can find lots more, or you can actually design your own. I like the cat, so we're gonna try to make the cat. All right, there's his bottom there. There's his body. Have to give him a tail down here. There's his upper body. And we have his head, and of course, let's give him 2 ears. So that, as you can see, my representation, whoops, let's go find that, of a cat. All right, but you can go ahead and design some more designs, or take a look at my sheet and try to come up with how we can rearrange these shapes to make fun pictures. All right, we'll see you next week on Math Fun, where we're going to do some more games and activities. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.